And this is Forever Blue. I'm Ian Cheeseman, and we're going to be talking all about Manchester City for the next hour. If you've never joined us before, where have you been? 106.1 FM. Tell all your friends. XS Manchester, rock station during the day. Football from 6 till 7 every evening, but particularly on Tuesdays, we talk Manchester City. Alongside me is the City legend that is SHAUN GOATER, who scored... Well, actually, I'm not going to tell you how many goals he got, because we've got a competition to come, and that's the question, which I'll reveal a bit more details of. But he scored a lot of goals for Manchester City, Sean, didn't you?
Yes, I did. What a fabulous time, and it's also fabulous to be watching games today, because we play beautiful football.
That's for sure. You played very good football. I mean, obviously, one of the goals that stands out in my mind, quite apart from the Gary Neville assist, which everybody remembers at Main Road, was that one that Ali Benabi set up for you down at Gillingham, if I seem to... Was that one of your favourite goals?
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was a little bit of interplay, you know... Benabi receiving the ball, and I just made a little run down his side. Sorry, he made a little run down his side. I rode it to him. He's backheeled it. And it's just backheeled it up in the air, and it's just saying hit me, and I've hit it. And yeah, pleased to see that one go in. So enjoyed really playing with Ali Benabi. Yeah, it was a really good joy. It was a joy.
Well, on the way in this hour, we're going to hear from ASA Hartford, who played in that great 70s team, one of my favourite, most consistent midfield players in City's midfield, and Paul Simpson, who was obviously Simo to most people, who you might remember particularly from the Charlton Athletic promotion season, but there was a lot more to it than just that. And these days, he's the England under-20s coach, and I saw him at the EDS game last Friday when City played Swansea. He was there looking at the young players, and a lot of City fans have discussed with me, either on social media or in person when I've been out and about, and obviously it is a big talking point anyway, about youngsters coming through, how much it would mean for City to get more and more youngsters into the first team. I know Diaz came on at Burnley the other day, but one of the big questions, of course, of that Burnley game, the 1-1 draw, was that why the manager only named 6 substitutes? Why did he not name another youngster? I found out today that John Stones had a knee injury. I think the plan was for him to be on the bench, and Lucas Nemecha, who is one of those young players, equally was injured. So if that had happened at the last minute, that might explain it. But I know you, Sean, watch games at the academy level, and you're very passionate about that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about youngsters coming through and being named on the bench and getting minutes in this first team?
Well, you started it off nice and hard. I like the topic straight off the bat. Well, what I would say is, you know, I look at that whole situation. I look at it from 2 points of view. One, if I was managing Man City. 2, if I was a player. If I was a player in the academy, 1, I would be wishing and hoping to be a sub to get on and to be rewarded perhaps for how I've done and how I've performed. Whoever that youngster may be at this current time, and I'm sure there's a few that they could have used. And looking at it from a manager's point of view, you know, from a manager's point of view, I look and I think, okay, Pep will be seeing it and saying, there's a bigger picture. It isn't, yes, the development's important, but the bigger picture is Champions League, the Premier League, and winning the FA and other trophies. And that will be his take on it. When I look at it, for me, I think he should have put a youngster as a sub. So I think there was a bit of talk, a discussion regarding Gary Neville perhaps saying that, you know, he should have had sub. I actually agree that I think he should have had one of the youngsters as an incentive to say, here's for all the hard work you've been doing and performing well. And perhaps that kid wouldn't get a chance because there's injuries and all the other things happening. But I think that would have been a motivating factor. And also for the academy coaches to incentivize them to say, you're rewarded because you've been doing well. Yes, there's some injuries, but you've been rewarded because you're doing well. So I would agree with Gary Neville that it was a bit naughty of Pep not to. And I think he's already put his mark out there that City doesn't have the resources that Pep does. So I think this is his way of saying, well, we don't quite have it in depth with the youngsters, so therefore I'm not going to have or put a youngster on the bench. But it's a really hot topic you got here. I kind of like it.
The thing is that whilst I have no reason to dispute anything that you're saying. What we don't know, it's a bit like when David Silva was on the bench at Liverpool, and City fans, and I was in the away end, watched him warm up that day,
yes,
and then wondered why. Well, if he's fit enough to be on the bench, and we've seen him warming up, and he was waving everything, he never came on, and obviously he didn't start that game. And then I hear from a friend of mine in America who watched the coverage on NBC that David Silva had actually been violently sick that morning, and that was the reason why he hadn't been involved. So for all we know, the reason, there could be a simple reason that there were only 6 on the bench at Burnley.
Yes.
It could be that John Stones and or Lucas Nemecha, whoever was going to be that 7th substitute, once the group had travelled to Burnley,
Precisely.
then cried off sick. And then everybody like you
Yes.
are reading into it that this was a statement and he was doing this, that and the other. It might not have been.
That's very true, and because there's things happen. Having said that, you do take a squad that covers an eventuality of a sick or an injury of some sort. You know, I don't know, getting off the bus or you trip and fall. There always tends to be a sub available or someone
an
in
extra
squad,
player,
an extra player. So, but yeah, there could be some really simple answer to it, which Pep would not be revealing to the public. He wouldn't be revealing to us. So that has to be still in everyone's mind. That's thinking about this whole conversation. We can't exclude that as an option.
Now let's talk about the Burnley game. I mean, obviously, as you know, I do a vlog at every game, which is available on YouTube.
I tune into it, and if you at home don't tune into it, you need to be tuning into it.
But what I have noticed recently is if City win, then the number of viewing figures are a lot higher than if City have a disappointment. So against Burnley, not as many people viewed it. So I'm thinking, well, first of all, that means it's mainly City fans that are watching. But it also says that they were really disappointed by that draw because they were so disappointed that they couldn't face watching. Perhaps they wouldn't have watched Match of the Day that night, and they don't watch the fans talking about it. Now that in a way surprised me. When I was talking to fans after the game, they were saying, I'm very frustrated, I'm disappointed. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I've just watched this 90 minutes, and you tell me, you watched it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I thought City were fabulous. All right, they didn't finish. We know about the Raheem Sterling miss, but there were other chances as well.
Yes.
But I actually loved that game. I loved watching it. I thought they played fabulous football. And okay, it was a draw. Not the end of the world. But why is people so down about it?
Well, because we have been treated to such beautiful football, such amazing standard and quality of football.
And that happened at Burnley.
Yes. With Pep Guardiola, that when we produce a draw but still dominate the game and perhaps have a few chances that we should have put away that would have won the game, we come away as fans. I think we've been spoiled because we've played some really exceptional football. So I think we've been spoiled, and we come away and we think, well, we've gotten a draw. Why can't we beat Burnley? Well, Burnley remind me of the old City of my time. Probably a discredit to my time and some players. Certainly towards the end, we started getting real quality players. But we had a workman-like team. And when I say a workman-like team, the striker worked as hard as the centre-back or as the full-back or as the midfield. Everyone worked hard because we didn't really have, these, you don't call them marquees here, but we don't have the De Bruynes, the Silvas. We started to get them in my later years with Ali Benabi and Al Berkovic, Anelka, these sort of players, George Weah. So, for me, that's those quality players we didn't have in my time, and we just worked hard. And Burnley are that sort of team. You look at the strikers, the amount of work they put in and working back, and you see them in fullback positions helping out, and then they're looking for that. And they still try to play football. Don't get me wrong, but they're really working hard outfit team. So Burnley are by no means an easy team to go and get a result against at Burnley.
So you on that basis are not as disappointed as some fans were then?
No, not at all. I mean, you see where Burnley are. They're not there because it's luck. They're there because they're organised. They work hard. I played with Sean Dyche for a couple of years at Bristol City. He manages the way he played, and he put his foot in for everything. His team, I mean, the game, yes, it's changed, but his players, they don't shuck challenges. They go in for challenges. They work hard, and that's, I think they're one of the signs up at their club is something about heart, lungs, and legs. And that's Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche as a player was heart, lungs, and legs. He had everything. He would stick his foot in. He'd run and give everything. And when you look at him, you say, well, Sean Dyche wasn't a top Premiership player, but he done well as a player. And so he manages his team that way, and he gets the most out of them.
Now, as far as City are concerned, obviously Raheem Sterling's got a lot of stick for missing that chance, and let's face it, it was one of those that should have gone in. But is the level of criticism that he's had by some people unfair? I mean, even Pep seemed to, when he went off, he threw his gloves down, Raheem Sterling, and then Pep went, I was watching you love all this anyway, don't you? All this body language stuff.
Yes.
And he goes and picks the glove up and chucks it in the trench, and there was no hug between them. There was none of that kissing like there was at the West Brom game. So should we read anything into that? And is the criticism he's had unfair because of it being such a big miss?
Well, I would say this. I think that the Pep Guardiola, I think his emotions are always there to be seen. You see it more so when players miss a chance as opposed to anything else. Or when we win a game in the last minute, you see those emotions. But if we miss a chance, or, a sitter of some sort, then you see his emotions. And I think if I have one criticism of Pep, I would say that's where he can improve, because that influences the crowd that watch. And so therefore we all jump on it and go, yeah, he should have scored it. And therefore he should be, as players you're told to be calm at all times, don't get too flustered. If you score, don't get too excited. If you concede, don't get too down. Well, that's a chance or a situation where if you miss the sitter, you don't get too down about it. But as a manager, he should the actions of being really down about that chance being missed. And I think if he showed a more calm persona, then some of the fans in the crowd are not influenced. So that anxiety doesn't come immediately. It takes perhaps another chance to be missed before it comes. But City tend not to go and miss two great chances.
But the other side of that argument is that when we saw him embrace Raheem and give him that cuddle, which is the same thing you're talking about, showing emotion, that actually had a positive effect both on Raheem Sterling and probably the crowd as well.
I would say positive is always good. Positive is always good.
Don't show negative emotion.
But don't show negative emotion. So, what I mean is, yes, you can show that he's upset that he's missed a chance, but we know, like, we don't see it too often, but we see when Pep sort of goes down on his knees on the ground, and for me, I think, whoa, he's shown a lot there. And if players look back, I think he can control that a little bit more. I think he can control that a little bit more because that influences, again, the crowds. And the crowds go, well, yeah, Pep thinks he should have scored it. That's why he's reacted that way. And so everybody gets in a tizzy with regards to the chance, as opposed to let's be composed about, let's be calm about this. Okay, yes, he's missed a chance, but we'll get another. And therefore, the anxiety from the fans doesn't creep. Don't get me wrong, we have not had anxiety from the fans, but I think perhaps that's a little critique I think Pep can improve on.
Interesting. Now, I was a special guest of Chester branch of the Supporters Club last night, and I think I heard somebody say at the meeting that there's now 240 branches or something in the Supporters Club, obviously all over the world, which is brilliant. Yeah. And I would urge anybody that's not already a member of the Supporters Club, I've been a member of the Supporters Club for all my life practically, to join, and it has great benefits socially and in every other sense. Now, a kid said to me, he asked me a question, I'm going to ask you the question, right? He said to me, who's the best player at City? Who is the key player? Now, I'm not going to say, but I think you can work out. I said it's between two.
Okay.
And he had one. So if I asked you that, who is the key player at City at the moment?
Fernandinho.
No, that's gone left field, or whatever the expression is.
Yeah, okay. We all say De Bruyne.
I said De Bruyne and Silva was a fine line. I love Fernandinho, by the way.
Yes, but it's because when we have pressure and then the ball is lost and then teams try to counter, it's Fernandinho that's breaking that up. So we're allowed to keep that sustained pressure. When we build the ball up from defense into midfield to get it into De Bruyne and to Silva, that link is Fernandinho. When teams have the ball and trying to create and start, it's Fernandinho. And he's that unsung hero, but he is. And I sent a tweet out saying he got a knock at one game, and I said we can't afford him to be injured because, yes, Gundogan can go in there and he can be smooth on the ball and move it and pivot it, but he can't break up the play like Fernandinho. Yaya can go in there and he can pass and move the ball, but he can't break up the play like. So we can get a player in there that can pass it and keep it and, transition the ball from one side to the other, but they can't break up the play the way Fernandinho does. And so he, for me, is really key because when we develop the play from defense, he's instrumental in being on the key point or on the point of that triangle between whether it's Addison and the centre back, either side, and he just transitions the ball, and that allows us then to get the ball and find De Bruyne and Silva. And then the other side, when we're attacking, it's him that keeps that pressure on and just moves the ball about. So he's really key. Again, it's easy to say De Bruyne and Silva, but Fernandinho is really key to the team.
Let me ask you the same question, phrased slightly different, and see if you give me the same answer. Mm-hmm. If one City player was going to be nominated as the player of the season, the Premier League player of the season this season, based on what we've seen so far, who would it be?
De Bruyne.
Ah, no, that's interesting. You go for a different player.
Well, it'll be De Bruyne because the game, players of the season tend to be goal scorers or goal assists. And yes, we tend to, and probably it's unfair that, goalkeepers don't get player of the year.
Few strikers want all the glory, don't they?
Or coded midfielders don't get player of the year. But it probably is slightly unfair. But De Bruyne is probably very likely to get player of the year.
Over David Silva. And is that because he doesn't score as many goals and because he isn't as eye-catching?
He's not as eye-catching as
David Silva. I mean, De Bruyne at the moment, when he plays, you can't fail to notice him because he seems to cover every blade of grass.
Yes.
He's a threat goal-scoring wise.
Yeah.
He's obviously, he's either doing a defence-splitting pass that sets somebody up for the assist and the goal, or he himself is the assister. Whereas David Silva plays in it's hard to describe this to somebody that doesn't watch him, but anybody, obviously, most people who we're talking to here watch him.
Yes.
And he does it in a very unobtrusive way. He keeps possession. He caresses the ball almost.
Yes,
but he isn't always doing spectacular things with it, cross-field passes or shots from long range or whatever. Is that the reason why De Bruyne would be more likely to win an award like that?
Yes. Again, he probably just... He's able to produce that long pass on one or two occasions. He doesn't overdo it where you think De Bruyne has a really good long pass because he only does it once or twice in a game. Silva, it's always short. Silva, you don't see Silva, it may be the odd time. Out of 5 games, you may see Silva knock a long ball, but mostly it's a 20, 30-yard pass from David Silva. And his ball retention is superb, even when he has 2 and 3 players around him. So the two different types of beauties, 2 different types of...
Beauties in the eye of the beholder.
Yes. But De Bruyne, because he can drop deep, get involved with a bit of the build-up, slide a ball down the side, a 40, 50-yard ball down the side, and it looks easy, but it isn't because that's a quality pass that you're passing over 40, 50 yards, right in the path of the forward. And he doesn't have to break stride. And then he also can be in the final third where he can put in his left foot and strike a screamer, right foot, strike a screamer, be in that final third and thread a through ball for Sane or Sterling.
Take a free kick above the wall,
take
under
a free
the wall.
Kick, under the wall, over the wall, through the wall. So he ticks a few more boxes in regards to his game, but he'd probably get most valuable player.
Right, I wonder if our next guest knows how many goals he scored for City. The one and only Mr. Asa Hartford, na. Asa, do you know how many goals he scored for City?
How many goals are you kidding? You're making me laugh. It might have been double figures, I'm not sure. But there's about 350 games, so not that many.
He knows my weakness, you know. He knows my weakness, so he's seen me miss plenty. That's what it is.
There'll be some people, I can't believe there are some people who'll be listening to this who didn't see you play, Asa, in your pomp, but I can tell you, fantastic player to watch. How much did you love playing for City? Because it's changed a lot since you, but it was great times when you were there, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, they were. I mean, when I joined, and it wasn't. I joined in 1974, and they were a big club, you know, because they'd won, you know, in the previous 5 or 6 years, they won the league, the FA Cup, and the League Cup. And in one of the games, I actually played. City beat West Brom in the 1970 League Cup final, and I actually played for West Bromwich against them. You know, so they were a top club even when I joined.
And the way it's changed now, I mean, must blow you away. It blows us all away, really, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, it really is. You know, it is incredible. The training facilities compared, even probably when Sean was at City, you know, where you trained, and you know, back in the good old days, we used to train over at Cheeto. Anywhere really, you know, we didn't have a base until they bought Platt Lane, the old police club, I think it was, and. Then that became our home, and even there was only two grass pitches, and very soon became muddy pitches. You know, nowadays that's the biggest thing for me. I'm not bothered about, you know, really, you know, but the money that they earn, good luck to them. But the pitches, to play on those pitches must just be fantastic. I mean, obviously, everything's changed off the field as well. You mentioned there about training facilities, and we know about the academy. But you as a player, it's not something I often ask players this, but it's something that fans often ask me about. When you were a player, you used to go training, and if a journalist turned up at all, they would just approach you directly. They wouldn't be done through press officers. There would have been none of that sort of stuff. I mean, Sean's nodding away. It was a bit more like that for you as well, but even more for Asa. Was it like that for you, Asa?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we used to have Peter Gardner used to travel with us. You know, the Manchester Evening News that followed City. He would actually be on the team coach, which I think occasionally, well, before my time, but occasionally might have caused problems if he'd been rather critical of one or two players. You know, the next week when he jumped on the coach, he might not have been made to feel too welcome. But it's obviously totally changed. And the other week, what was it, 2 months ago when I saw you, you know, I was actually in the Tunnel Club and bumped into you there. And I mean, that just takes the whole thing to a new level, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I mean, how would you have felt being on the other side of the glass, knowing that people were having the dinner watching you through the glass?
Yeah, quite scary. You'd have to be in your best behaviour, wouldn't you? I mean, you just probably not can get up to any of the antics that you did back when we played.
Is that something you thought about, Sean? Because you've obviously seen that, haven't you?
Well, you just get into the zone. But I mean, the Tunnel Club is absolutely fascinating. But it's almost like being at the zoo, because you got family who are sitting there having meals, and then they're obviously looking to snap pictures, because it's for me, it's probably an ideal place to do a selfie, because right behind you, you've got De Bruyne, Silva, and the rest of them. So you're like, this is a place to do a selfie. But yeah, it's special, that whole Tunnel Club.
Sean and I were talking about City's midfielders before, Asa, and talking about the different merits of different players. Who do you look at in that midfield and think, they're a bit like me?
No, I don't think like that, but I think obviously, De Bruyne, Silva and Fernandinho, each different types and complement each other. I mean, Fernandinho does a lot of the hard graft in there, that I know the other two contribute defensively as well, but he really is an unsung hero. Fernandinho, you'll put him at centre back, or he can play anywhere. He's just good players can do that, and but the other two going forward, De Bruyne and Silva, are just I think De Bruyne will be Player of the Year this year, and he's ably assisted by David Silva.
I got to ask you a question. Were you listening to us just earlier? because you said exactly what I just said, and I'm really sure whether or not you heard me, but I this is exactly what I was saying.
What's the expression? Great minds think alike, or fools seldom differ.
Yeah.
I think it's the latter.
Yeah, I was saying the same. And Fernandinho is just, unsung hero in the work he gets through, and he allows Silva and De Bruyne to go on and express themselves. And I was saying that, he's the one player that we really can't afford to be injured. And that's my view. Do you share that same view?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't hear you, Sean, so it's good that we're all on the same wavelength there.
Yeah.
I think, occasionally might be able to come in, but obviously he's not got the same athleticism as Fernandinho. If he was to miss out, get injured, then we would miss him,
Yes.
But, without a doubt. The others, you can bring in Bernardo Silva, who seems to have improved quite some, when you join a club, it's difficult, and now he's finding his feet,
Obviously, City were linked with Riyad Mahrez, and there's suggestions that when City play Leicester this coming week, that there might be further discussions maybe about him arriving in the summer. I've heard City fans saying, don't really need him, don't really want him. Other people saying, yes, he'd be a great addition. Have you got a view on that, Asa?
Well, obviously he was player of the year 2 years ago when Leicester ran away with the league, so he's a top player, and if you can keep them happy, I think that's the secret. If they're good times, it depends on their what they like off the field. But if you're not on the team, then it's up to you to work hard to force your way back in. And I take it you must be in that vein, because at the moment you think, well, where's he going to get in? But of course, we have chasing 3 and 4 competitions. You need a lot of players, and he would obviously come in and fit in. But if they bottom tomorrow, he probably wouldn't get a game, for a good few weeks until he settled in.
Well, obviously, the City signed Laporte in the window, and he's only played once so far. But a few City fans saying to me that they're worried about when it comes to the crunch games, the League Cup final, and then the same week as it stands at the moment, they play Arsenal and Chelsea. The Champions League is getting to the final stages. Is defence a concern, or is it not a concern?
Well, for me, I think it has been, and I think he obviously helps, in that department. I didn't see his game performance against West Brom, but by all accounts, he did really well, and we certainly needed someone back there. I think, you got. If they're all fit, we're fine. Like with Vinny, as everyone knows, tend not to be able to rely on him playing too many games. You got John Stones and Otamendi, who, in my view, has improved this season. I wasn't a big fan, but he certainly won me over.
Pep called him Superman recently.
All right, yeah, well, and rightly so, because he's a bit of a threat. He's not the biggest, but he'll put his head on the ball. He goes to attack the ball, and he'll weigh in with a couple of goals for you.
Well, it's an area that's going to be scrutinised when they start playing these big games, I must admit, coming up.
Yeah.
How do you feel instinctively? Obviously Pep's trying to divert away from City could win the quadruple and everything, and it feels instinctively to me that the expectation level that's on City now is that if they were to walk away with the league title, which looks, let's face it, as if that's pretty much done, even if you say 50-50 in the League Cup final, which I think City would start as hot favourites for against Arsenal, imagine if they only won those 2 trophies. Would that be a disappointing season?
I think so. For the reasons you've pointed out, just expectations, amongst the fans. But you do. Pep has said it, and I don't think I think it's absolutely right. You need to go undefeated, or to win the 4, you probably need 30 top-class players in the squad, and unfortunately we don't have that. And it's difficult, isn't it, to prioritise. We'd all like to win, Manchester City to win the Champions League. It looks like, as you say, we've got the Premier League, but it's the Champions League, and you're going to, we obviously expect to get through this round, but it's who you get in the next. It gets tough, doesn't it, with all the all the big teams are
even
going to get through.
Even Basel can't be taken for granted.
Yeah.
No, but looking at it on paper, you got to fancy us to go through. I do. I don't think. Well, hopefully we won't slip up. But it's the next round and who you get paired with. Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. Quick question. Earlier, Ian's asked me the question regarding when Sterling had missed the chance and Pep's body language. He sort of throws himself to the floor in disappointment. What are your thoughts on that body language in that sort of situation with Pep? Do you feel that it's a good thing? Do you think it's okay that he shares that sort of emotion? Yeah,
for me, I think it is. It's instinctive, isn't it? I mean, the other game the other night when Klopp, when Liverpool took the lead near the end, and he just charged down the touchline, he was like a madman, But I like to see all that, I like to see, a bit of emotion.
Yeah,
you do get the odd manager who, his team score a goal and there's no reaction. I just think that's so weird. It's just not natural. But I think I was talking to Fred Ayer last night, and he said that when Raheem unfortunately missed that chance, we've all been there, Sean. Missed where it's, it looks easier to stick in the back of the net than easier to miss, than stick it over. But apparently Raheem, after he missed, he threw himself over the line.
I'm a penalty.
Yeah, and Fred said, "No, Raheem, the ball, not you." Yeah.
Hey, so it's always fabulous to speak to you. Let's do it again soon. But thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Okay, thanks very much, Ian, and good talking to you, Sean, as well.
All right, take care.
So, the other night, I was sat there at the EDS game under 23 City, and the flying winger that is Simo was sat there watching. He's these days, we can't be frivolous about because he's got a very serious position. He's the England under-20s coach, and he joins us now. Evening, Simo.
Good evening.
Now then, obviously Sean is a big fan of watching youth development. That's your job now. You were watching the under-23s the other night. What do you make of the quality of what's in City's academy at the moment?
Well, it was probably a wrong game to make a judgment because I thought they were very average on Friday against Swansea, if I'm going to be really honest with you. But I think they've got some good players, some good young players coming through. There's a few of them who are involved with our England development teams. I was there on the night to run the rule over Ed Francis, and I was hoping a couple of the other lads, Diallo and Ash Kikwu, were going to be involved, but sadly they weren't for me. But no, there are some very good young players coming through in City. If I'm going to be honest again, I think I'd rather there was much more English players than the foreign players that are there, but that's me being selfish with my FA cap on.
Well, that's a reasonable answer anyway, but just let me answer you this question, because this is quite central to everything. Pep Guardiola spoke quite eloquently a couple of weeks ago about the best way for his players to develop is to put them in the right type of team, possibly away from playing under-23 football in the academy, because he was quite critical, I suppose, really, of the quality, the structure, the fact that all reserve teams, perhaps when you were playing, the Central League and whatnot, were a mixture of players who couldn't get into the first team and youngsters, but now it seems to be all youngsters. In fact, that team on Friday night that we saw was a very, very young team. As you know, Tommy Doyle came on, who plays for the England under-17s. So do you, as an England 20s coach, when you look at Jacob Davenport go on loan to Burton, and when you see that Lucas Nemecha and Diaz and Foden now in the first team squad, so are not playing very often, does that disappoint you, and how would you solve that problem?
Well, I do think that these lads need to be playing senior football. They need to be getting out and getting exposed to real football, because I don't think the 23s league does stretch them as much as we would like. I think it's good, and there's some good technical games going on, but they're not realistic enough. There's not enough tackles going in to make players have to perform under pressure. And I just think it does them the world of good to go out and sample senior football. Now, I can see the reason why there isn't a load of them going out on loan, because I think with the way the transfer window works, and minimum of a 6-month loan now. I think that puts clubs and possibly players off going out on loan for that full 6 months, whereas it used to be much better if they could go and have a month out on loan, and if it wasn't quite working, go back to the clubs, or they could extend it for a little bit longer. And I think that worked a little bit better when it was that way. Going back to my days, and probably Sean's as well, I think there's somewhere in between the hurly-burly of Central League and Lancashire League that I used to play in, and what there is now. And I think somewhere between those two types of football is probably what would be right for young players nowadays.
Yeah, I would actually agree with you, because in my observation, when I used to go and watch and observe these sort of under-23s/21s, they're playing all this really great football, and then I would speak to one or two players when they've gone off to the League One teams, and what they've told me is it's been really difficult to adjust. And you're saying exactly that, because it's about players getting stuck in, there's challenges coming, as opposed to the under-23s. The ball is always built up from the back through the thirds. There isn't tackles. So I think you make a point to something I saw probably going back 2 years ago, because City seemed to be educating the players for Champions League football, if that makes sense, rather than can this player get into the Championship, League One Championship, or Premier League team. Do you differ from that?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, I'm all for developing players to play the right way, and I think we have a really good academy system in place now, from 9s through to 16s, 17s, 18s, where they develop and they learn to play the right way, and you play through the thirds, and you have to find the solution to playing out if a team puts a high press on against you, or if they're going to mid-block, how are you going to then go and create areas where you can go and get yourself forward. So I'm all for that development, but I think as you get in towards between that 18s and the 23s, and then making that transition into senior football, there needs to be a bit more. There needs to be a bit more physicality to it. There needs to be a bit more challenge put onto the players. And as I said earlier, when I was a youngster and playing in the Central League, we would play against some of the best young players, but also against senior players who were being asked to play in the reserve team, and that just doesn't happen now. So the players are not in that challenge of playing against men and playing against real physical opponents, which I think they do need to be able to progress.
So you and Pep agree, Paul, but how is it solved? I mean, Checker Trade Trophy was an attempt to sort of do that a little bit, wasn't it? But there's only 3 fixtures in the entire season.
It's difficult. I mean, I'm on my way over to Lincoln now to go and watch Lincoln City play Chelsea's 2021s in the Checker Trade, and I'm really interested to see how the Chelsea lads cope against a really physical Lincoln City side. And I've got 3 or 4 of the Chelsea boys who are in our under 19 squad. I'm really interested to see how they're able to cope up against this physical nature, the direct football that I expect Lincoln to play, because the only way we're going to find out if they're good enough to go on is by being exposed to this type of football.
What about the current first team? Are they going to win the quadruple, Paul?
It's a big ask, isn't it, Cheesy? There's a lot of games that they need to win. Pep must be struggling for players if he can only put 6 on his bench at the weekend. So is he going to have enough players to be able to have a challenge on all four sides of our game? They've certainly got so much ability, but I just think it's a real big ask to win all 4. It looks like you could probably present them with the Premiership at the moment. That's a biggie, but I think if City could really choose and make a decision, I think they'd really want to have a real big push in the Champions League. That's where everybody wants to see them doing well, isn't it? And I think if they can have a successful Champions League campaign and a Premier League, I think they'll be really satisfied at that, personally.
Paul, enjoy tonight's game. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
Pleasure.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers.